welcome back to Late Night Scrolling, the Canadian pop culture podcast hosted by me, producer Liz. If you're watching this, you know, yet again, I forgot to record the intro the same day we shot this episode. Becca and I had so much fun recording this that we chatted for a few hours after the recording. If you don't know Becca, the film tripper, she makes incredible videos showing the iconic places where shows are made around the GTA and around the world through her travels. She's also an iconic architect with a specialty in theme park design. So of course we talked about the new How to Train Your Dragon theme parks, which include the voice of Canadian crush to us all, Jay Baruchel. This episode is extremely giggly and conversational. It is one of my favorite episodes that we've shot of the pod. Let's get right into it. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the inhaler special of Late Night Scrolling, because I'm gonna put the footage on top of this of us outside of the off-the-shelf launch party, of us just taking deep breaths because we could not breathe inside the coffee shop.
Just two asthmatic queens trying to live their lives.
So, okay, how do you handle it when you're on the red carpet?
I take like 12 shots of an inhaler before
Literally.
I feel like it's like in some sort of like episode of like Teen Wolf or something. I'm like, I need like a power up. Like that's what I feel like.
Like quite literally. When we were at TIFF, so shout out Vic. At Vic Victoria Organa on the internet. If you don't know, we love Vic. Vic shot the TIFF red carpets with me and had the brilliant idea to order an Amazon cashier's belt, which is, if you can't imagine that in your head, it's literally like a fanny pack but all open pockets. So you have a bazillion open pockets.
That's such a good idea.
IQ 12 million. Like, it was the smartest thing we could have done, because we just had like batteries and like all the things we needed like just right here, so we didn't have to go through bags, because there's no space for bags on the red carpet. But there was a pocket in the cashier belt for my inhaler that was like, I could just like reach over to Vic's side and be like, boop, take a hit, put it back in.
I love.
What to think about. And then I saw Base released a new version of their water bottle bag, which is like, you know, it's kind of like you see those Stanleys with all the attachments to them, but they did a bag version of that. And I saw it and I was like, this is literally perfect, because there's a spot specifically I can put my inhaler in this, and I can put a battery pack in that, and then I'm like ready to go shoot a TIFF carpet. Like, it's fun.
It's so funny because it's like, I'm an asthma queen, I'm an allergy queen. Like, my purses need to have space for my inhalers, my EpiPens, my Benadryl.
This is why we're best friends. This is why I adore you. This is why all of, like, okay, let me just say what I was thinking to start the show with for real. Because when I feel down about, like, you know, I think we're going to kind of get into this, but it can be hard to talk about Canadian pop culture in the sense that it's not like American creators have the tide moving with them. We do not have we are trying to make the tide exist in a lot of ways.
We're out there, we're trying to paddle, and like everyone else is just floating around. That's where we're at.
Exactly. And we can kind of explain that for people who might be like, what are they talking about? But on the days when I feel like I don't know, like, oh my God, it feels like it's so much effort, it's so much work, like, what are we doing? I go and I watch your videos, and I'm like, no, I've got a girly pop like paddling with me. Like, we are going through, like, we are just paddling in Muskoka, looking at all these houses, being like, one day we will own one together. Get a private helicopter landing.
Imagine, oh my God, that would be so fucking cool. Sorry, are we a swearing podcast? I'll limit my swearing.
Absolutely, we are, for real.
It's like, I can try and tone it back, but I'm a sailor. It's fine.
No. Literally, you're talking to an East Coast girly. Come on, like, the vocabulary is a half swears, half real language. When did we meet? Is my next question, because I don't remember. Like, I know when we met in person, but I don't remember when we started following each other. I don't really. It feels like you've always been here.
I love that. So we met in person at the restaurant Queen Mother. I don't remember what the event was for, but I know that restaurant.
It was the Queen of My Dreams.
Yes.
The Queen of My Dreams.
I think, is the restaurant not called Queen Mother? Mother Tongue.
I think so.
Yeah,
right by Scotiabank Theater in downtown. Yeah.
It's a good restaurant. It's delicious. It's
great.
Like, would recommend. It's by the Ham, which is my favorite restaurant in Toronto. But we met at that event, and I was like, that's producer Liz, and my sister was like, and we both obviously love my sister. She is in like the
We
pop
adore.
culture sphere, but she is not like, I feel like, as deep as we are. And she was just like, I recognize her face, but I don't know her content. I'm like, no, she's the Canadian pop culture queen, and we need to go discuss things with her.
We must be friends.
I was like, we are gonna get along. And then I like see you and I'm like, hi, I don't know if you know me. And you're like, no, I know you. And I was like, okay, good, I know you. I feel like I'm trying to remember like what even like the first content that I found of you. Like it definitely had to be some sort of like red carpet coverage. And I was like, wait, this girl has like tea and is like covering this in a way that like nobody else is covering this. Like we
Oh, you're so
are
sweet.
best friends.
We
You don't know
are
me.
best
My
friends.
parasocial relationship. I was like, we're best friends.
No, we are. No, it's real. It's like sometimes you find people like on the internet and you're like, I think we're trying to do the same things. I think we
Yes.
have the same thoughts about the same kind of people. We
Yes.
are now bonded for life. I know for sure the first content I saw from you wasn't even on TikTok, it was on Instagram, because you've had some really big reels with your like, this is what filmed in Toronto, this is what's filmed.
Yes.
Not even just in Toronto, you've kind of done this around the world now in all these different resorts and theme
Yeah,
parks in
yeah.
different places. So I loved that from you. I think it's so cool.
It really popped up. I feel like I like pre-TikTok, pre-pandemic even, like I had like a little blog where I was like, oh, like it's kind of a hobby to like figure out like where things are filmed. And like when I'd go on vacations with like my family, I'd be like, there's this like obscure like monument that we all have to go to because it was in Game of Thrones. And they're like, we're in Malta. Why are you making us do this? But it was like kind of like a hobby of mine. And then once kind of TikTok started popping off, my sister's like, you could take this and do TikTok, because at that point she'd been doing content creation for so long. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. And then like my first video that really popped up was like, people didn't know Mean Girls was filmed in Toronto. And I was like, oh, I thought this was common knowledge. And then I realized, oh wait, no, it's not, because nobody knows about Canadian pop culture. And so that's kind of where the start of it was. And so yeah, I've had a lot of luck with like Mean Girls, Bridgerton, like a lot of like girly pop type TV shows or movies. Parent Trap has done well for me, like a lot of genre. But because so much of that and so many DComs and stuff are filmed in Toronto, and I'm like in the mix of it, yeah, I feel like that's been my start, I guess.
Yeah, and it is. I'm gonna put my glasses on because I'm not 21 anymore, and these lights hurt my eyes. But you know what? I'm not even gonna cut this out because this is all about being real about what it's like to be a pop culture creator in Canada.
No, true.
And putting lights in front of your face is half of it. Honestly.
And honestly, like the glasses queens are asthmatic glasses queens. It's because like I don't like to wear glasses on the red carpet because they reflect weird in the lighting. But I haven't worn contacts since the pandemic. Like I've been wearing contacts since I was 12, and then pandemic I was like, I can't be bothered to do it anymore because I'm not like in front of people all the time. And then but now I'm like, but I can't see people when I go to events. And the amount of times people come up to me and they're just like, hey, oh my God, like, how are you? And I'm like, come closer. I don't have my glasses on. Who are you?
It could literally be Glenn Powell. I'd have no clue. I'd have literally no clue. I'd be like, that man, another man trying to speak to me, get out of my face. And everyone's like, do you know you just turned down Glenn Powell? And I'd be like, oh. And I'm not saying that didn't happen to me, but I am saying that I met him at TIFF and had no idea who he was because his hair was super long.
The audacity of him. Like,
and
sir, why'd you change your look before you saw me?
Kind of. I was like, I don't know who that man is, because he was just coming out of, where are my glasses? Okay, this is now very funny to me. I don't understand how I lost them in 2 seconds. Found them. So Glenn Powell's at TIFF. He had just done Top Gun.
Right.
And he does not have long shoulder length hair in Top Gun.
No. He does not.
But he had long shoulder length hair at TIFF, and I truly did not recognize him. He was the absolute nicest.
I love that.
It did not matter what his schedule was. He had the movie star energy of like, I have all the time in the world to like say hi. I wasn't even like he came over to a whole bunch of people, said hi, he was taking photos, all this stuff. I was just there. He was like, hi, having a good day. Like, he was just so sweet. And then he left, and I was like, who was that man? That was very nice. And then I literally had to Google it because I could not figure it out.
What was he filming that he needed long hair for? Was it that baseball movie?
Oh, it could have been the baseball movie. Because, you know, in the beginning of Hitman, his hair is kind of long. And so it could have been that, but it could have been the baseball movie.
The baseball movie was definitely before Top Gun. But I know he's got, like, longer hair in that, but...
It was not the Glenn Powell that was in Anyone But You. Let's just be really clear about that. Because when that movie came out and I went, oh God, here we go.
When I think of Anyone But You, I think of that scene where he's like on the beach doing his like back crawl thing. And when that happened in theaters, I cackled so loud and nobody else in my theater laughed. And I was like, this man is working out on the beach and he's crawling around like a crab. I was like, why is nobody else laughing?
Why is nobody else laughing?
He's committed so hard. I was like, now I know he's committed to the bit. This movie's going to be fantastic. Yes.
I love anyone but you. I always call it anybody but you, anyone but you, any person but you. I know the Glenn and Sydney movie, it is my plane movie. It is my comfort watch. It is the rom-com of all rom-coms to me.
Yes.
Now.
I honestly, I loved it. I have a soft spot for Australia because I did an exchange there in university. So I used to live there for like 6-7 months or whatever. And so when I found out that there was a rom-com Shakespeare adaptation, Glenn Powell, I was like, in Australia, I was like, bitch, You're like, signed up.
This was made for you.
Yes.
Literally made for you.
Yes.
I love Australian film and television. I feel like Australian TikTok and Canadian TikTok are like merging into one.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm like, welcome all the Australians to the pod. This is a safe space for you.
Yes.
Too. It'd be so fun to do an Australian special with some Australian creators who can like teach us about what's going on over there.
Totally. I was like, I got invited to the randomest hair event recently, and I was like, I'm a movie girly. I rarely get lifestyle invites. And it was an Australian hair company, and I was like, I went and I was like, I just want to talk to the cool Aussie hairdressers. And I was like, I'm an honorary Australian. They're like, you're absolutely not, but like, I love this energy. And I was like, just like the vibes they bring and like the slang and stuff, like I feel like you could probably get some good, because they do film a lot of stuff down in Australia, because there's like The Great Gatsby was filmed in Australia. There's a lot of like random like big studios in Australia that like I feel like there's got to be some good film girlies down there that would absolutely talk
Australian
to
film girlies. Get in the comments and we will see you on the next episode. Oh my god, it's so nice to spend time with you as someone that's also like so deep in the pop culture knowledge, trying to bring it to the country, bring it to the world. Like what you were saying before, I feel like you nailed it with like, there are things that we learn and that we know in our work that it's like, oh well, people must know this, right? And then we say it and it's like, what? Right. I had a conversation the other day where someone was like, what do you mean Hayden Christensen's Canadian?
Right. And I'm like, he went to my friend's gym. I was like, what do you mean you don't know he's Canadian? He's from Markham.
Literally from Markham. That's such tea, but it's so true, right? Like,
but like,
hysterical.
yeah, and
it's
I guess
true.
like, honestly, I love the redemption arc that he's been getting, because I feel like when the prequels came out, like there was so much hate for them, and like obviously when the prequels came out, like we were a lot younger. Like I remember going to like birthday parties and like seeing them and stuff like that. So like the nostalgia for the prequels is so high, and just like the hate for him from like older, I don't know, Star Wars fans versus like us. Like I love that he's able to kind of, and I mean, and also he for a time was like partnered up with Rachel Bilson, another like pop culture queen, not a Canadian pop culture queen, but a pop culture queen. I feel like I'm glad that he's getting a Canadian redemption arc, and that Star Wars fans are like embracing him again. So like,
I'm so
yay,
happy
Canada.
for him. And he does all the conventions.
Yes.
He is a man for the people.
Yes,
I think. Like,
I agree.
Yeah,
He's
I
just a
love
small town Canadian boy.
And
that
like it
got
feels
Star
like
Wars
that's
fame.
the energy of everyone that's blowing up right now. It's like all of our small town heroes are now these like international phenomenons. Like I was thinking the other day, like I don't think we as a country ever properly gave credit to the fact that Canada lifted the men of the Barbie movie. Like the top 3 billed men in the Barbie movie were all Canadian.
Yes. Nobody talked about that. And then, like, I understand, like, the press tour, obviously, and the outfits and, like, the set design. Like, there was a lot of stuff that obviously got a lot of praise that was well-deserved. But, like, not, like, I feel like 90% of the men were Canadian.
They were. You have the lead Ken.
Yes.
You have the lead
Seymour
Alan,
Ken.
the only Alan. And,
The
you
only
have, and you
Alan.
have the antagonist Ken. They're Canadian.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So it's nice to I feel like in this conversation we're gonna drop some little like pop culture knowledge bombs for people that if you know, you know, and if you didn't now you do know. So
now you do.
Enjoy the ride. What was the piece of like Canadian pop culture that made you go, I love it here? What was there like a set or a movie that filmed here? Like do you have any distinct memories of a thing?
Actually, honestly, I have a very aggressively specific thing.
Tell
the
me.
movie Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, which is obviously not a specific thing. It's a Lindsay Lohan movie. Everyone loves and knows this movie. This is probably my favorite Lindsay Lohan movie. the mall that they go to, the DDR that they go to in that thing, the mall where they go and they buy tickets, like this would have been in the 2000s when I watched it. I was like, that's my mall. That's Erin Mills Town Center. What the hell is it doing in a Disney movie? And like we would like, that was like the closest mall to us growing up. My sister and I would bum around that mall. Like I feel like all of us in like the 2000s, like our parents used the mall as like a free babysitting service. And so like we were just like running around, and I remember when the scene where they're like walking through and they're like, oh my god, like let's check the tickets, and it says sold out. That store was just like an entire store dedicated to telephones. So like it was all like novelty telephones, like Mickey Mouse telephones and like big rotary phones and whatever. And I remember being like, they're in Erin Mills Town Center. That store doesn't sell tickets, it sells phones. So like that really, for me, I was like, oh, like things happen here. And like I would have been so young when like that locked that in for me, like that memory locked in. And like the house that they filmed, the Santini house, like that's like closest to like where my parents like live. Like a lot of that was filmed in Mississauga. And so like now I'm a Toronto girly, but like growing up as a Mississauga girly, I was like, this is the most boring city in the world. Like how could Lindsay Lohan just be like walking around here?
That's so real. That is so real.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. And they do. Shout out tax credits. Shout out Ontario Create.
Seriously.
I had two. I had two. And one is niche like you. So well, maybe not niche, but niche in the sense of like, it was like groundbreaking, earth shattering, but it also, I was so young that it felt like, how is this even happening? Camp Rock being filmed in Canada.
Yes.
Which to this day people don't understand. Camp Rock is CanCon, and I shout that from the rooftops like, no, Camp Rock is Canadian content.
Yes.
Shot here. Like
yes.
Yes, that is CanCon. Thank you for the respect you put on Camp Rock's name. I adore you. The second was when Elliot Page went on the Oscars run with Juno way back in the day. Okay. Because that's hometown hero Elliot Page from Halifax.
Yes.
And I'm a Nova Scotia girly.
I didn't know Halifax. Wow, I feel like, why did I think he was Vancouver? I don't know why.
See, the biases of Canadian pop culture,
Truly,
right? People think it's Vancouver and Toronto. No.
Always. So, I love that.
Yeah. So from Halifax, and it was like such a huge deal to watch like that. And then like, I mean, Elliot's worked on so many different things, but then Umbrella Academy, it felt like a 2.0 of the Juno moment, because then it was like a Netflix original series. It was #1 around the world. And then it was like a whole other level of in everyday conversation. It was just,
and for people that don't know, Umbrella Academy filmed in Toronto also. Yes.
Hey, there it is. Yes. I'm gonna like have to get a counter going. This is so good.
Literally.
So good. It is so cool to see these people and see these projects that people like watch and experience, and they just assume it's American, and then it feels like at some point I just got so pissed off at like the Americanization of all these things that had Canadian connections that I was like, if I hear one more person call The Boys American content, I'm literally gonna like
seriously
scream. Like,
The Boys filmed in Toronto, and also filmed in Mississauga. They film at the University of Toronto campus in Mississauga. The whole Gen V is literally filmed there in like 3 days. They filmed it at one building, which is so funny when you walk there. But like, you're right. Like The Boys is like Jack Quaid. He was at a screening and people were asking him about The Boys, and he was like, well, I live like 6 months of the year here because we film all the time. He's like, I feel like an honorary Torontonian. Like, these are the arcade bars I hit up. Like, these are all like my favorite restaurants. Like, I spend all my time here because The Boys is Canadian.
Yeah. I'm gonna say this. I'm like gonna put a line in the sand. Jack Quaid is Canadian.
We've claimed him. He's ours.
He is. He's ours. And if he wants to claim asylum here, he gets it. You don't make the contribution you've made to Canadian pop culture and not get a house in Muskoka. That's just how I feel about it. Like, forget Walk of Fame, forget Canadian Screen Awards. No, we're going straight to a lake house.
Yeah. Beside Casper and Nowhere.
Yes, exactly. No, we will happily take him.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, no, I feel like, there gets a point where, like, I had been making content on the internet for a minute just about, like, pop culture news and talking about PR, and it wasn't exactly content I wanted to be making. It was just content that I felt like I was educated enough to make because that was my background and whatnot. But then it was, like, amongst all these conversations about just these stories breaking in the world and who are the front runners of, like, the Oscars or who are the front runners for the Grammys or the Emmys, and people just, like, talking, and me going, like, wait, y'all are talking about, like, Celine's song.
Right.
and about how much you love this movie. And you don't even know Celine Song is Canadian.
Right.
Like, y'all are talking about women talking and Sarah Polly.
Right.
And you're not talking about how important that is to Canadian film. Like, this
Yes.
is, like, it actually, in a way that, like, you know, when Flo this year won their Oscar and they brought it back to Latvia and it was, like, this whole thing, people were like, oh, we're so happy for their film scene and their film community. Or, like, anytime an international film goes into the Oscar stream, people are so happy for those, like, film communities in a way that's, like, Canada never gets that.
Right.
Canada never gets a little, like, wow, Canadian film is, like, so cool, even though we are literally there every single year.
Yes. Literally there. Half of I feel like there's so many people, like, that got, like, nominated. I did a video, maybe not this year because life was hectic this year for the Oscars, but last year I did a video about all the Canadians that were nominated, and the comments were literally just like, wait, hang on, I didn't know all these people were Canadian. And I'm like, but how?
How?
You did a actually, there's two pieces of content that you did that I want to talk about in terms of, like, people not knowing people are Canadian and whatever. Yeah. There was a piece of content that you did where you were talking about, I think it was on another podcast that you were on or that you hosted, and it was talking about, like, you were like, this is like a heritage minute, and it was like the from the studio with, like,
yeah, that was this podcast.
Yes.
Podcast.
I was like, I saw you post a clip from it, and I was just like, no, you're right, that is a heritage minute.
For real.
And then when you were talking about the coverage of Tate McRae's album, and people were, like, referencing all these things, and it's like, yeah, but that's not what she grew up with. So it's like, those aren't going to be, like, I think people don't even realize that, like, Canadian radio has a certain percentage that needs to be Canadian broadcasted. So it's like I don't remember what it is. It's like 30% or something. So it's like, like 30% of our radio every single day, 30% of every hour is Canadian content. So it's like, there's bands that blow up here, like the Arkells, that nobody of like outside of Canada has, like, heard of. And so it's like, I feel like even for, like, obviously Justin Bieber was such a big thing, but it's like we were hearing him twice as much as, like, Americans were hearing him. So it's like, to not reference Canadian culture in reviews of a Tate McRae album is crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I'm going to say something controversial here that I have not said anywhere else on the internet. This is like a late night scrolling exclusive.
Drama.
But it's because we have the space to actually have nuance about it here. When Americans were so surprised about this Tate McRae, Morgan Wallen collab,
yeah,
I was like, she's literally from Calgary.
Right.
She's literally from, like, the entire X's music video, like that entire Think Later album is referencing the Calgary Stampede and hockey culture.
Right.
And you're surprised that she's doing a collab with Morgan Wallen. Like, you literally have no media literacy.
Right.
You literally have zero media literacy if you're surprised by this.
Honestly, like, even before I started listening to her music, when she was first starting to, like, glow up, and I was like, oh, there's a girl named Tate McRae from Calgary that's big in the music scene. In my head, I was like, oh my gosh, she must be a country music star. And then when I realized that she wasn't, I was like, oh, I mean, like, I love that for her, but, like, that's also my bias, I guess, being from Toronto and thinking about Calgary and the Stampede.
Right.
And we can talk about, like, I was just in Calgary.
You can take
but, like,
the girl out of Calgary, but
no.
you will never take the Calgary out of that girl.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And so you're right. Like, having, like, that bit of, like, context, it's like, nobody is ever talking about, like, Miley without being like, and she was from Nashville. You know what I mean? Like, there's the, like, it's the same thing.
It's literally the same thing. But so I'm very happy to have comrades in the space of, like, trying to paddle up the creek of, like, no, like, Canadian context isn't just, like, a thing that exists. It's actually so important to understanding, like, actually being literate to talking about the media that we're talking about. Like, it's actually so critical, you guys. So what's your, like, favorite piece of Canadian pop culture that's, like, been happening? Or, like, is there something on your radar right now that you're like, I just think it's so cool that, like, this shot here or this is happening? Or
it's honestly, I feel like off the top of my head, just, like, like I said, coming off of, like, being at the Calgary Underground Film Festival this weekend, Ginny and Georgia was such a big moment for both, like, Netflix, for Canada, for Canadian celebrities or actors, and the movie that, our friend Nick, who is, like, a big went to film school, does, like, incredible, like, breakdowns and film reviews. He was invited to go to Calgary Film Festival, and I got to tag along so that I could help him film his, like, interviews with the director, and it was so fun. I was like,
supporting creators.
Literally, I was like,
we want to see.
Yes, I was like, your brother can't come. Absolutely, I will be there waving my, like, go Nick flag and, like, film your content for you. But it was so crazy because, like, I I've only watched the first little bit of Ginny and Georgia. I've been like getting into it because like I know I'm gonna want to watch it all in one sitting, and I'm dedicating time. And so I know that the lead actress who was in this movie was on Ginny and Georgia, and I don't think I realized how famous she was. And like Nick was like, she has over 1 million followers, and I was like, from Ginny and Georgia, and he was like, people don't know that that's Canadian. And I was like, that's crazy to me. And I think it's just like, there's even like bits. What I find so interesting about Canadian pop culture is that because our news cycle is so heavily influenced by America, that it's like even people like us who are so deep in Canadian pop culture and deep in like the film industry here, is that like there's still facts about it that like I'm discovering. And it's like, it's crazy that it's like I can still like learn and grow and be like, this is incredible for these like Canadian actors and creators. And I wish that more people were learning about these things as I'm learning about these things, I guess, too.
Like, exactly. Well, I think you're touching on what is one of the hardest parts of our job, which like, oh, like being a content creator is hard. Like, okay, like every job has ups and downs. So like being a content creator is a very privileged job. We're so lucky to be able to like do this at all.
I mean,
but, like,
we both came from a background, like office girly backgrounds. Like we're 9 to 5 girlies, and it's like
we have been deep in the trenches.
Yes,
like, we understand what it's like to have like a real human job. That's very hard.
Absolutely.
You're also, just to say, Becca is a very brilliant architect, and that's just like a fun fact to throw in because I think it's like such an interesting thing about you and why you're so good at the content you make. But anyway, that's a conversation we can have in a few minutes. One of the things people don't realize about covering Canadian pop culture specifically is like we have to do, like, I would probably guess 3 to 4 times the amount of research if you're actually going to do commentary and you're actually going to cover like the Canadian pop culture scene. The research that goes into like creating and validating Canadian connections is wild in a way that when you watch content from Americans, they do not have to do, because they get to make their content under the assumption that, oh, it's just pop culture. Oh, it's just pop culture. And like, that's great. But like when it comes to Canadian pop culture, there's so little infrastructure to support the media cycle of it that like there's a reason why eTalk has an entire newsroom.
Right.
Because you need it. You need researchers. You need like fact checkers. And then there's people like us that are literally like, hey, Google, is the lead song from Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto? Like,
please confirm. But you're right. And like, I do find that like I have been actively trying to like, I guess change this about like my content, is that like, I feel like I'm so inclined to be like, oh, this movie, here's the premise about why you should care about this, and then jump into like, end this. But when I look at American like pop culture coverage and American like film reviews and things like that, like they're not giving that context to their films because they don't have to. And I'm like, we shouldn't have to either. And like, I don't need to have to be like, and this is why I care about this film. I can just be like, this is why the film's good. And it's like, I don't need to be like, and it was filmed here and it was doing this, and like, please pay attention to this like random indie movie. I could just be like, no, this movie is good. Fuck off.
Yeah, literally, like we should be able to have that baseline of just, I wrote an article on my Substack this week, and it was born out of that exact vibe of like, Sullivan's Crossing is back for season 3. They're doing weekly episode drops. I love a little appointment view television. It's my favorite. I'm so much more likely to watch a show if it's 1 episode a week and not a binge. Like I so stand, like, give it to me in like small drip doses. I love. So Sullivan's Crossing has been that show for me. I just sit down for my goofy little hour where I watch all these people with the campground in Nova Scotia trying to keep it alive. I'm like, yes, tea. And then Chad Michael Murray's there. And finally, a minor spoiler for season 3 premiere. Chad Michael Murray finally got to kiss the love interest, Miss Maggie, without literally a fucking disaster happening immediately after. And I was like, thank God he finally got to kiss someone without something setting on fire, someone drowning in a lake. Like we're just kissing for the sake of watching Chad Michael Murray kiss.
Yes.
That's all I want.
That's all
so I wrote a whole article about it.
Honestly,
I was like, let Chad Michael Murray kiss on Canadian television. Like, can
honorary
we just...
Canadian king, because he lives out in the East Coast now full time. He like moved out during the pandemic, I heard, right?
I just learned he just moved back to Buffalo.
Oh.
So
rude.
Deep it down. But he did live here full time for like quite a while during the pandemic filming Sullivan's Crossing.
That makes so much sense, because I remember seeing an interview where he was just like, yeah, like I came here on a trip and was like, no, I'm staying. Yeah. And he did for years. And I guess And that interview would have been, so he would probably living there for like, what, 4 or 5 years or something.
Yeah.
I love that for him.
He was
but
coaching football in
R.I.P.
Dartmouth. That's a fun fact.
That's cool. I didn't know that
because
either.
His son was playing football. He had like a private football trainer. This isn't weird information.
Wait,
he was posting about it on Instagram. But yeah, he's got a bunch of kids.
I did not know that.
Oh my God. Welcome to
Wait,
John
hang
Michael
on.
Murray. Fully a DILF. Fully.
Yes, obviously.
Kids.
That's why I'm so
Fully
shocked.
He's got like 3 or 4 kids. They're gorgeous.
Wow.
And I think he just had a baby. Like, had another child last year, maybe, or somewhat recently.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think it's why they moved back to Buffalo, to be closer to his family. It was in the CTV press release around. They did a little sit down about the new season, and he was saying that he's now between LA, Buffalo, and shooting Sullivan's Crossing here.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the breaking news we need. Thank you.
This is breaking news. Breaking news. John Michael Murray no longer
multiple
can be found
children.
at,
Yeah.
It's
multiple children
shopping.
Yeah.
Another person that deserves citizenship if he should choose.
Agreed.
He's done a lot of work up here too. He shot a bunch of like decoms and different things up
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
So anyway, just aside, I forget how we got to John Michael Murray because he's been occupying all of my brain.
I love how you invited me onto this podcast. You're like, we're gonna talk about the Canadian Screen Awards. And it's like, actually, we're gonna do a full pivot and just catch up.
I just want to have a giggly, goofy time. You know what? That said, let's talk about the Canadian Screen Awards, but from a very specific angle. From a very specific angle, and not what I thought we were going to do today.
Okay.
So the Canadian Screen Awards, we're going to talk about it a lot over the month of May because it's at the end of the month.
Yeah.
I feel like people don't understand this is like the Canadian Oscars. Like, this is literally the highest achievements in film, television, digital in this country. If it's on screen, it's getting an award from the Canadian Screen Awards.
Right. And it's so funny because you this year, one thing I love about you is that you are so on top of things, and one thing I love about me is that I'm not. And so you were like, hey, by the way, don't forget to apply for accreditation, like media press for the Canadian Screen Awards. And then as like this morning, I was like, oh shoot, I never did that after Liz reminded me twice. So I went to look and I was like, wait, academy.ca, like this is like even to the point where it's like, this is so locked into Canadian film history, Canadian film prestige, and like nobody cares. Not that nobody cares, we care, but like Americans don't notice or care.
And Canadians don't know.
Right.
Like, it's literally the highest honor. Like, we had Aaron Pierre a full year before Mufasa happened.
We need to talk about Brothers. Actually, we don't, because we have so many other things to talk about, but Brothers is really good.
That film is one of my favorite Canadian films, period.
It was so beautiful, and I cried like 6 times watching it at the screening. And then I was like, when I ranked it for like my year of like stuff, I was like, I have to rank it low because I'm so sad about what happened. Like, I was like too invested in the characters' lives, and I was like, well, I'm sad that this happened to them. And I'm like, this is a movie. Like, this didn't happen to them in real life. I was like, but I'm devastated because I was so, that was filmed in Canada, Canadian talent, about a Canadian story. Like, it wasn't even like filmed in Canada pretending to be Boston or something. It was filmed in Canada. No, this is Scarborough. We're in Scarborough. That one swept, the Canadian Film Awards.
It swept. It was crazy. I have a couple of funny stories around Brother, because that was one of the first big stories I got to chase as someone who was like in the Canadian pop culture.
Nice.
It wasn't one of these like, random things that comes in and out. It was my first Canadian Screen Awards. I was like deep in Canadian pop culture. I'd followed that story like a hawk. Anyway, Lamar Johnson, the absolute sweetest, nicest ever. I had like 30 seconds with him and Aaron Pierre on the red carpet. I was like dead. So cute. Then I saw him in LA right after The Last of Us when he was Emmy nominated, and we had such like a sweet chat then, and he was like so grateful for Brother still and like working with Clement Virgo.
I love that.
It was just so nice to like see someone so like in their bag and so humble and happy and like grateful. And then after that experience, and this is like, I've never told the story before. During TIFF last year, it must have been, the DGC, which is the Directors Guild of Canada, does usually like a day of programming, if not like 2 days of programming, and they have all these different like keynotes and panels and talks, and it's like really fun networking, and it's usually like around TIFF but in its own space, so it's kind of like away from the chaos a little bit. And they bring in like Canadian filmmakers to kind of show trailers of their films, and these are usually people that are screening at TIFF as well. So like they had the filmmaker that did Swan Song, they had the filmmaker that did the Mr. Rogers documentary for Amazon Prime. And I'm at this event, and I'm like, listening to the panels, and my friend Paula taps me on the shoulder and points, and Clement Virgo had slipped in the back to like just take it the day. I was like, oh my God, like I want to say hi to him because I have only ever chatted with him on the red carpet. I want him to know like how much his work is meant to me. So I'm like, we break for a break, right? And like, it's like, I cannot explain enough how like you would never be able to have a conversation like this if you were an American covering American pop culture. Like the way the Canadian industry is so like humble and like willing like to have a chat. Friendly. If you're at an event, like you can go up to people and like kind of introduce yourself. And I'm someone that like I will never ask for anything. I will kind of like start a conversation and like judge like, do you want to be left alone, or like are you willing to chat with me for a minute? And like he was literally just eating like from the lunch that was there, and I was also having like the lunch that was there, and I was like, hi, like this is who I am, like this is when we chatted. Like it's just so crazy to see how well the film did, and Aaron's having a moment and Lamar's having a moment. We had like such a beautiful chat just about everything, and I was like, this is literally one of the most prolific filmmakers like of our time, and I'm just like having a sandwich with him at this event, like casual, talking about how great everything turned out, like just casual. But that's why I love this industry so much, is like everyone's just here to be a part of it.
I do feel like when I see coverage, I mean, like I've only ever been to a handful of like US red carpet type events, and when I see the difference between like them and us, and I see like press is almost just like segregated, like there's I feel like more so like news than it is just like fans or just like people that are like in pop culture. I don't know. I feel like it is a different vibe, and it's so lovely speaking with a Canadian, because then they're just like happy to talk about their project, and they're just like, yeah, like I'm a fan too, and I just want to like chat about it.
Who's your favorite Canadian that you've had a chance to interview or chat with?
Oh my god. Oh, I have to say Jay Baruchel for multiple reasons. So Jay Baruchel was one of my first childhood crushes.
Okay, hold the show, pause the show, pause.
Because
pause.
The girlies need to talk about, like, nobody talks about how fucking cute he was on PMK. And, like, we need to remember, like, please. So, on PMK, which, if you don't know what PMK is, please just go find, I'm sure the episodes are like up on YouTube or something, but it was Popular Mechanics for Kids. It was a STEM TV show.
Yeah, sure was.
It was like talking
and
about,
became an architect.
And then I became an architect, thanks to Jay Baruchel, not because of Jay Baruchel, but and when we were watching it growing up, it was like him and Alicia Cuthbert, is that her last name?
Yeah, yes. I think so.
Alicia, it was Jay and Alicia, and then there was another person that came along, Tyler or Taylor, afterwards. But pretty much it is a show about like science, and like you learn about things, and it was like Canadian, I don't know, educational programming. And I loved watching Jay on that show. And then it was so interesting seeing him grow up when like he was on like obviously like How to Train Your Dragon, but then when he was friends with also Canadian icon I'm drawing a blank on all these names because, like, I'm so excited to just talk about it that now I'm just like, word vomit. Seth
People
Rogen.
That are listening on 2 times speed are, like, slowing it down.
Like,
They're like, what?
This
These
girl,
girls are talking too fast.
These girls are all over the place. Because he became friends with, obviously, like, Seth Rogen and, like, just, like, all of, like, like Jay Baruchel, I feel like, he had such a lock on like 2000s, like raunchy comedies. Like there were so many good movies that he was in that era. As he should. And I was very lucky to be interviewing on the Humane red carpet for a movie directed by Caitlin Cronenberg, which had also Y2K legends, like the dads from both Veronica Mars and the OC, and then obviously, like I was having so much fun and chatting with him. He was so lovely. He was so happy to talk about this project. My understanding is that like he's been on interviews and has been like, no, like I also like love Canadian pop culture and I love Canadian film, and there's no reason why I need to be living in LA because it's a horrible and lonely place, and like I want to be back here with my family. Like I want to watch hockey on the weekends with my friends. Like I want to be like here and bring some of that like industry status back to Canada. And chatting with him was so lovely because we were talking about How to Train Your Dragon. We were talking about like some of his like, I don't know, movies that he had like worked on, and he was so warm. He was so friendly. He took the time with everybody. He was like attentive, listened to people's questions, like made sure that every single person got the amount of time that they needed with him about this project. And this was like after Blackberry, after like all the acclaim that Blackberry gotten, which did not get worldwide acclaim, and I'm still bitter about that, but fine. And it swept last year at the screen. I was like looking at last year. I was like, I just want to confirm. Like, I remember Blackberry won a lot. And I was like, no, Blackberry won at fucking everything.
Yeah.
And
oh my god,
he
wait,
was
wait.
so lovely.
Can we pause for a
Sorry,
second
yes.
of the words you just used? I don't know. This clip is definitely somewhere on my Instagram, but I have not reposted it. I was on the red carpet last year. Okay. And Matt and Jay were coming down together. And I'd met Matt and spoken with him in Palm Springs. I'd never met Jay. And I knew that I wanted to make them laugh because everyone's asking them all these questions about like Blackberry. They're like, I can kind of hear as they're coming down the carpet the kind of answers they're giving. And I had this brainwave of like, if I can make them laugh, then like I'll kind of be able to break them out of getting the same answers everyone else is.
Right, exactly.
For the red carpet, right? Like you listen in, you try to get at the end of the carpet so you can hear what other people are saying, and then you can like pivot. So anyway, I turned to my brother, shout out Peter. Peter was filming for me at the Screen Awards last year. It was crazy. And I was like, I want to make a joke about like them sweeping because they've been sweeping everything. Peter's like, yeah, go for it. Peter's like, he's like, yeah, do it. Like, that sounds hilarious. So they come up to me and I'm like, I'm reminding Matt, like, we met in Palm Springs. It was a very small event. He's like, oh, yeah. We were on the same flight to LA, which was like a very stupid thing. We were right beside each other in the customs line to get into the States. Like, it was just a stupid CanCon, everybody. Literally. Alan was also on that flight. And Craig Kielberger was too.
Wild.
What a name drop, right?
What a wild flight. Holy crap.
Wild flight. And I had to I wanted to rewatch Blackberry on that flight, so it was even more cringy. I was like, I hope that they're all in first class because I'm in the back of the plane and I truly don't want you to see me rewatching your shit on the plane when I'm going to interview. Like, that's so cringe. Anyway. So they get to me, Jay and Matt get to me on the red carpet. And I open with the following. I go, I hear you're the guys to ask about a broom because you're sweeping. And they went, oh, but if you go and rewatch that clip, here's what actually happened. And I edited it, okay?
Okay.
So I hear you're the guys to ask about a broom because you're sweeping. And Jay kind of, like, he does, it gives the effect I want to. It kind of breaks him out of, like, the repetitive shell he's been in. He's like, that's very nice, whatever. But then Matt goes, I thought you said you're the guys to ask about a room. And I was like, no, like a broom. And I start like brooming, like, because you're sweeping. And he says, oh, yeah. I was like, I don't know about a room. I was like dying. Like, no. I'm not like hitting on you, Matt. Like, no, especially after I've already done all this work to remind you who I am. Could you fucking imagine?
Oh my God. That's so, I'm crying. That's so funny.
Thank God it was on him because Jay did hear me correctly. So
yes.
He was like, no, that's not what she said. So yeah, I had to save my reputation real quick with that one. But
Big
anyway,
time.
you used the word swept and it brought me back to that moment.
But they did. And like that movie, another one, a lot of Canadian talent because once again, people don't know blackberries were invented in Canada. And a lot of people, especially like Southern Ontario people, like we know people whose like families worked for Blackberry. Yeah. It's like there's a lot of like one of my friend's ex-boyfriend's dad invented the security software for Blackberry. And it's like that was what like Blackberries were known for because it was a business phone with security software. And that was like the whole thing about it. And like it was interesting to be like, oh, I'm watching this movie and like that's supposed to be my friend's dad. Like that's crazy.
That's supposed to be my friend's dad.
Like I was like, can you like one of my sister's friends like grew up in the Hamilton area and so she was just like, that's literally supposed to be her, like my friend's dad. And I was like, can you ask her like how he feels about like her dad being represented by like the gay best friend in Devil Wears Prada?
It's crazy. What'd he say?
He was just like happy to be in the movie. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess
like,
so,
that's
right?
cool. I'm there.
That's so crazy. It's such a small country in a lot of ways in that sense, like the stories we have and the connections to them, like everyone's one degree of separation from all these things.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk more about our crushes on Jay Baruchel because that's gonna be the new topic of the episode that I theme this whole thing around.
We're just talking about our obsession things.
The greatest. He's so funny. We love him. The thing that changed my life, and I've been thinking about this interview literally since he did it years ago when he was promoting Blackberry.
Okay.
he went on cue with Tom Power.
Okay.
And you were saying earlier about how he's done so much work to talk about, like, you can build the industry around you.
Yeah.
On that interview he did with Tom Power, he specifically talked about the Trailer Park Boys filming in Nova Scotia and how he had all these examples of, like, they bought houses in Dartmouth, like, they built the industry around them for, like, this many years, and, like, that's what made me want to come back to Canada. And hearing him talk about that in, like, it was 2023 or something, 2024, I was like, this is literally earth-shattering information to me, because it wasn't anything I didn't already know, but, like, hearing it contextualized in the fact of, like, the way our industry operates is, like, nothing is handed to you. You have to make a choice and just, like, put your roots down and stick to it. That's literally the only way to do it. I was like, whoa, this is the guy that's now theme parking in Orlando for How to Train Your Dragon, and he's saying that I can do this shit in Nova Scotia? Like, that's serious.
It's crazy because it's like, it's not like Hollywood isn't one of the most profitable operations. Like, it's not like movie making isn't such a huge profitability in terms of, like, the money they have to spend on stuff that they care about spending it on. And it's like, if they are like, hey, we see hope in moving an entire production for the Trailer Park Boys to this random place, like, that's what we're gonna do. And it's like, they have the ability to do it because they have so much money and investors and all this stuff behind it. It's like, you know, like, when girls are like, oh my god, if he wanted to, he would. Like, that's literally Hollywood.
Literally exactly that. Yeah. I have to ask you, people,
serious?
I've said that you're an architect, okay? Yes. This is so serious to me. I've been resisting texting you this because I wanted to do it on the pod.
Okay.
You specifically are very experienced in theme parks and like the science of the theme park experience, one might say. I might say. I don't know if that's the right word. So those are the words I'm using.
No, that's fair.
How are you reacting to all of the content coming out of the new How to Train Your Dragon?
Okay.
Stuff happening, and maybe explain to the people what exactly has occurred.
So I have been working in theme park design for years now. So my background is obviously, like, I'm an architect. I had done my thesis in grad school on, like, Alice in Wonderland, and that kind of like propelled me into, like, the entertainment and, like, themed environment space. And there's not that many places that do theme park design. And so the pros and cons of working in theme parks is that it's really cool, but a lot of it is NDA. So it's like, I can talk about things vaguely, but I can't always say specifics. So I have been very lucky to work on projects all over the world, which I can't say. And
it's okay.
That I can't say. And I can say that I was lucky enough to go to Epic Universe and experience all of Epic Universe with my job. I cannot say specifically what I worked on, but I can say that I was there with work to experience it.
So cool.
So when I was on the red carpet and talking to Jay Baruchel, I had asked him about How to Train Your Dragon World because at the time it had just been announced that that was going to be one of the lands. For the longest time, like, we were like, Epic Universe is just going to be, you know, it's 4 lands, but we don't know what it is. And there was a lot of fan speculation. And even working in the theme park world, like, we're only privy to certain bits of information. So, like, I had gotten confirmation on one part, but, like, not the other 3. And
you're
so,
like someone telling you, like, we're gonna put 5,000 trash cans in this place, and you're like, great, that gives me no information about what the theme might be.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, it's like sometimes, like, you're getting, it's like, I know that they're digging a moat, and you're like, what does that have to do with
anything?
Right. Good for you.
They're like grass and trees, and you're like, awesome, thank you so much.
And it's so funny because, like, much like the movie space where people are like, oh, like, we saw these set photos, we saw, like, a costume, whatever, like, there's people dedicated to theme park leaks where they're like, we know that Universal Studios filed a patent, and this is what the patent is about. So then they can kind of guesstimate what type of ride system is based around that patent, which is so niche.
Yeah,
such a specific
it really
tidbit.
is. I love that.
So when I spoke to Jay Baruchel on the Humane Red Carpet, I was like, hey, I know How to Train Your Dragon is coming up, and I know that you worked on the, obviously I knew you're part of the movies, but, like, at what capacity did you work on the theme park? And I was like, are you excited to see the theme park? Are you excited to see, like, everything come to life? And he was like, I actually am doing voices at the theme park that nobody knows yet. And I was like, am I breaking news here? I was like, maybe.
Wait, hold on.
Hang on. And so 2 years ago when I did the Humane Carpet, or a year ago, I was like, oh, like he's doing that, and I had posted that, and that had gotten picked up by like a bunch of stuff because they're like, wait,
all these theme park
crazy theme park people that are like me. Yeah, they're all like a bunch of people, like theme park like leak things had like reached out to me. They're like, hey, like, can we repost this video because like he's talking about the theme park, and now that the theme park's open and like seeing it, so my sister and I were able to go down for the previews, the industry previews, and I think I was telling you this, Liz. I was so mad because 2 days after we left, they opened up it as an influencer preview, and all of a sudden photos were allowed. So when we were down there, you couldn't even take out your phone to take a picture of your parking spot. You'd be evicted from the park. So we were
God.
I've never had my phone be at like 90% battery getting into the park,
leaving
and also 90% leaving. So
cruel.
We were so careful, and so specifically for the How to Train Your Dragon section, like, my sister and I have a lot of love for that movie. I have such a deep connection to it, obviously, and they have actors now that are doing like a Jay Baruchel voice, and he reposted to his story. He's like, this is a great impression of me. Like, I love this, and like his voices on the rides, like they really did a good job of like capturing specifically his essence in the park, and I love that for a movie that I feel like didn't get as much love as it deserved when it first came out. Especially, you're right, like the Canadian love, who knows, but like I love that he's in there. I like his voice is incredible when you hear it on the rides. Like the actors doing impressions of him as Hiccup are so good, and walking around the park really felt like, and I think that that's why there's such a connection between movie lovers and theme park lovers, is like there's, yes, like what I do is I go out and I try to find places where it's filmed, but it's like there are so few experiences where it's like you are finding a one-to-one replica of a world that you love. And it's like these people have taken years. Like Epic Universe was like a 10-year endeavor. It's like 10 years of time to bring every bit that you have seen on screen and every bit that you have imagined that you don't see on screen to a physical space for you to walk through. And that is one of the most incredible things about a theme park, especially a theme park that's done well. Like, I'm not talking about Wonderland, no shade to Wonderland here in Ontario, but that's more of like an amusement park than a theme park. The theming's not quite there. But for something like Disney, for something like Universal, especially for How to Train Your Dragon, and I heard from a lot of people who have now done the previews, like Epic Universe has a Nintendo, it has a Monsters, it has a Harry Potter, and then the How to Train Your Dragon. And I heard from a lot of people, and I've been watching and like keeping up with all the vlogs and stuff to be like, what are people saying about How to Train Your Dragon? And people love it, and I love that they love it, and I love that I have such a connection to it, and that people are enjoying it. And I love that even like for Jay, who's like, I feel like he has such a connection to it, and I've heard from like other like Anna Kendrick, she has such an ownership over her little character Poppy in like the Trolls movies. Like, what I understand from actors is like you grow up watching cartoons, and it's like you have such a deep love for cartoons, and it's like you finally get to like embody your own character that like isn't really you, but like has your voice, and like it's what I get is that they have such an ownership over that, and like I love that it's now immortalized in a theme park for him.
I completely agree. It feels like
I feel like I went on like a 20-minute tangent. I'm so sorry.
That's exactly what we all wanted to hear about this, especially from someone that has like, you have the pocket of knowledge that I don't think there's another person on the planet that has the pocket of theme park expertise, Canadian pop culture expertise, and Jay Baruchel. Like, I think that is a formula that is exclusive to the Film Trippers. So I'm so glad you have heard your thoughts on it. I will throw one kind of wrench into the mix as someone that is just you're like, I'm ready to defend with my life. I'm going to leave this podcast immediately. No, I've been watching like, you know, the TikToks and the vlogs that come up from the How to Train Your Dragon park, and the character actors are so good. I did have a moment early on, like I feel like even in the past week, like the new stuff that's been coming out has gotten better, but there was like a period of 2 to 3 days when I was seeing like kind of the first stuff to come out, and I was like, these are not Canadian voice actors. And
absolutely,
obviously they're not. They're probably American. Like, it's not Canadian voice actors. It made me appreciate even more Jay being cast in that role initially to do Hiccup's voice. Do you know what I mean? Because I was like, there was just something about, especially in the first movie, like Jay is such a talented character actor, and it's not his voice that is Hiccup's voice. It is its own distinct dialect and thing,
Yeah.
but there was just hearing the actors trying to take on this dialect that Jay had so carefully crafted for the film.
Yes.
It was just, I was in this mind fuck of like, oh, you're kind of doing a bad Canadian accent, but you're kind of doing a bad Jay accent, and it's kind of coming together, but like to someone with the ear, it's like kind of not working. I feel like they have found it over the past 2 weeks. Like maybe the scripts are kind of sunk in, and like all the
practicing and
yeah, like I feel like it's gotten better, but for a minute I was like,
you know
what is happening?
It is something that I feel like how do I say this in a way that sounds cohesive but also pointed. I feel like the thing that people don't always know, like when they think of like a Canadian accent, they're like, oh, we're going to oot and a boot. Like it's like a very like generalized like stereotype of an accent. But like America, we have little bits of like dialect and little bits of the way we speak is so different from like place to place. So my boyfriend's family is from Winnipeg, and he, I don't think sounds different, but he's like, you sound like you're from Ontario. Like the way your O sounds are different than me and like my family and my friends' sounds are. He's like, I can hear sometimes you sound like very much Canadian where I think I sound like normal. And I think because we have a closer way of speaking to like Americans than like a British person does or an Australian person does. It's like they just assume, oh, you sound American, blank. But even when I was at the Calgary Film Festival this weekend, and the movie that we watched, A Clown in a Cornfield, which is coming out soon, that was a production that was filmed in Winnipeg, which, by the way, speaking of tax credits, the amount of movies filmed in Winnipeg this past couple of years has been crazy. But
Canada Film is so back. Canada Film is so back.
So true. So the film is meant to be like small town America somewhere. But it was hard for me to not be like, every actor in here is Canadian and I can hear it. And I was like,
oh yeah,
I hear the voices are Canadian and I know that they're meant to be like, we're from some like flyover state, whatever. But there is such, especially when you're like Canadian, you're deep in Canadian culture, like, you know, these actors are doing their best to like embody this character, whatever. It's like, but there are certain little tells I find and like, and trying to like both imitate, like as a theme park teenage actor, which is I'm assuming like their after school work, but like, it's like you are imitating a Canadian, like he's from Quebec, isn't he? Jay Baruchel, I believe.
Google. I have no idea. Jay.
Yeah, he's from Montreal because he's a Habs fan. So like,
there we go.
So like you are like Jay Baruchel is a Canadian French speaker who has a French Canadian accent that sways more like English sounding, doing a hiccup accent that then has to hide part of this but still make an animated character. And this Florida resident who is probably from Milwaukee or something is working in Florida trying to imitate a hiccup accent, masking a French Canadian accent and like there's layers to it, and like if you're deep in it, like you can hear it. And I feel like that's part of the Canadian pop culture that maybe people don't always recognize.
No, I absolutely agree with that. That is such a good take on that. I have so much respect for character actors that do theme park work, because I think that's like absolutely grueling conditions to try and pull off these like genuinely outstanding performances that they do, and
especially
like,
the ones that crowds. So just a bit of like, I don't know how much of this I can say, but someone we both know who doesn't like to talk about this in public, but somebody we both know was a character performer at Disney. I'll tell you off mic. So
okay.
And they were telling me the ins and outs of being a character performer at Disney. And when you're a costume character, like a full like mascot looking character, it is 20 minutes on and 40 minutes off. So you're paid for the full hour, but you've got 20 minutes like on stage, so like out interacting with children, whatever. There's no air conditioning in those suits. There's no heating, cooling, whatever. Like you're just in the heat, baking in that suit, and then you get 40 minutes to cool down. And then another 20 minutes on, 40 minutes to cool down. But for face characters, it's reversed. So it's like you're 40 minutes on, 20 minutes off, 40 minutes on, 20 minutes off, whatever. Yeah. So it is grueling work. It is crazy. But it's like I don't remember where this tangent was going. That was just a fun fact, I guess, about theme park.
Just we respect the theme park workers. They're working so hard. And then you throw Jay's very distinct voice on top of that. And I think that that's a very hard job to do. Yeah. I'm so happy he got paid to do
No, I'm glad too,
that's
honestly.
Amazing.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of times, actually, I was listening to one of my favorite theme park podcasts is Podcast The Ride. And Griffin Newman, who is a voice actor and I guess actor. He's the host of Blank Check podcast, a fantastic movie podcast. He was on that podcast talking about when he was on in like the Enchanted sequel, Disenchanted. He played Pip, her like chipmunk sidekick, and because he's such a theme park fan, he wrote it into his contract. Hey, if you ever do a theme park ride, I need to be the voice of it.
Yes, that's so
like,
good.
But like, it's great that because like you could easily have gotten somebody else to do a Jay Baruchel impression and not pay AI and not pay Jay Baruchel to come back and do it, but like the integrity of the performance, the integrity of like the love for the fans and like him willing to do it, because I mean everybody knows the story of Emma Watson not wanting to come back for some of the rides, and like her replacement is very evident. Like the impression the girl does is great, but like you can tell. And so I love that he was able to come back and like have some Canadian representation. I mean, I don't know the last time that you were at Disney World at Epcot.
A couple of years ago. 3 years
They have
ago,
a
maybe?
Canadian pavilion down there, which is very fun and very kitschy and very not Canadian. Yeah, it feels like a very
camp.
It's very camp. And they now have a video of Canadian mom and dad, Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy do a little Canadian video about Canada, which is very fun. And I feel like having that sort of like actual Canadian representation down at theme parks is really fun.
Well, just it's about honesty in a lot of ways, right? And it's like it sucked to see the videos of the theme park people doing their best to do Jay's voice, knowing that like there's an honest reason why Jay's voice is the way it is, and that informs so much of Hiccup's, like the honesty of a Canadian accent informed so much of like the believability of Hiccup to me as a Canadian watching it. So then it was almost like I had a moment of watching those videos being like, oh, like there's like a spark that gets lost when you lose the nuance, but they found it again, which was great. And it's the same with hearing that, like, you know, you put an honest representation of Canada, like these two actors that aren't just like people that defaulted to America and that was it. Like they've done Canadian content. They are the backbone of, you know, SCTV informed even our generation of Canadian comedians. Like it's great. I love to hear it. I love chatting with you about all this. Oh my God, please come back and do 12,000 episodes with me. God. I need to talk with you about everything. I would love to know, for everyone listening, like what we've talked about so much this episode, like Canadian crushes. Oh my God. The CanCon that informed you. Like what other deep dives would you want Becca and I to go down when it comes to like just all of these Canadian pop culture moments and people that matter? Because I think we could really do some damage here.
Yes, let me know. I mean, it's so fun. Like I was saying at the top, like the podcasts I've been on before have been so like movie specific. So like it's very fun to just like run my mouth. I'm like, oh, is this what it's like having a podcast? Hold on, hold the phone.
Hold on,
Liz.
wait,
hold the
phone. Are we cooking here? Listen, I love having you here. I think that we need more people running their mouths about Canadian content that actually know what they're talking about and aren't just in it for the privileges and perks of being a content creator, because none of that comes if you don't have fair love for the game
or passion.
This episode is not sponsored by Elevation Pictures, but I do just want to shout them out because they are the ones that took you and Nicholas out to Calgary for Nicholas to shoot that carpet. I've had such great experiences working with them as well. They're such a cool team of folks.
They're lovely. Honestly, I feel like of the studios that I've had the privilege of working with, they are easily my favorite. They care so much about the films that they work on, and they really care about elevating voices of people that are passionate. And I love that they have the opportunity to do that. And I love that they're able to pick up films like Blackberry and like really give it a big, like when Blackberry came out here, they had a huge party, a huge release. Like they had so many screenings. They had like all the cast came and talked. Like I love that they put the energy behind Canadian pictures that matter, and they've done such a great job about that.
And they have Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, which is Matt Johnson's film that was South by Southwest. I wrote about that on Substack if people want to catch up on that story.
That's supposed to be I heard from Elevation that they're poising it to be a really big release for them this year, and I love that.
It's going to be one of the most important Canadian films of our generation.
Absolutely.
And we're going to have to spend a whole episode just talking about that because
100%.
Okay, 100%. Please come back. We'll do a Nirvana
definitely
breakdown for the people. But no, I think it is important to shout out the studios and the companies that are actually doing the work to like make CanCon happen. There's so many good ones. Elevation is one of them. So if you don't follow Elevation Pictures and you feel like you want more connections to CanCon, like they do really good work to help bring it. They bring the energy. And with that, I guess we now know our next episode will be Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, the breakdown with Becca and Liz. But please let us know if there's other rabbit holes you want Becca and I to go down, because Lord, there's many.
I love a rabbit hole.
Love a rabbit
say
hole.
no to a rabbit hole.
Because you made it to the end of the pod, I've got some major tea to drop for you this week. It's officially May, which means it's Canadian Screen Awards month, and y'all, the interviews we have lined up for you over the next few weeks, some of the most exciting we've done in my entire time doing interviews, like period. Not just the podcast, but in like my 5 years of covering Canadian pop culture, the conversations coming up. Oh my God, it's a dream of a month. I'm so excited to take you behind the scenes of all of it. We'll be back next week with a very special conversation that I'm so excited to bring you. I'll see you next episode.